Welcome to Cup Check, the best sports radio show in the world, as we've been saying for a while now. On WODU, the best in college radio. They gotta be the best because we're the best, obviously. Just me today. Tyler couldn't make it, and he will not be able to make it Thursday either. He'll be out of town. So you got me all week. So if you don't like me, I'm sorry. If you do like me, you're welcome. I'm here all week. Um, Got a decent amount talked about. It's kind of been a slow week in sports, so to speak, since Thursday, obviously. Also, our hours have changed a little bit. We're sticking with the hours. We end this at 6, and then we end at 5:30 on Thursdays. So we have 2.5 hours, something like that, 3 hours, something like that. So that's kind of the change we have here. But to talk about today, like I said, a little slower in sports. Ray Rice and more came out on that. Obviously, I think you've heard us run that into the ground pretty much. Um, Maybe a trade in the NBA. A big trade that's been talked about by a lot of people. Not a lot of people, but been talked about, kind of thrown around a little bit. Maybe a little far fetched, but we'll kind of go into it a little bit and see the possibilities, how real it might be. We got college football. Obviously, a lot happened there. Jameis Winston obviously didn't play. ODU pulling a close one out at Rice. A couple teams aren't ranked. Don't know why. We'll go into that. Is one team for real? There's a team out there that's just putting a beat down on people. Are they for real? We'll talk a little bit of baseball. Baseball playoffs coming up. Obviously, it's kind of a big time for them. And then we'll obviously hit the sports mecca, so to speak, with football, fantasy football, power rankings, all of that. So you got me till 6 o'clock. So let's get started, I guess. So the we'll start with college football. We got Old Dominion. Start with them, obviously. Old Dominion beat Rice 45-42. So it wasn't a battle of defenses like last week. Last week, obviously, or 2 weeks ago now, I guess. They gave up 3 points, lowest in franchise history. And, well, this was the exact opposite. Giving up 42 points, Rice dropped to 0-3. Rice has played Texas A&M and Notre Dame, though, so that's not a fair kind of record for Rice. Doesn't They've played tough competition. ODU moves to 3-1, and they win their first CUSA game, the first one they've played as well. So they're 1-0 in the CUSA. But the defense, I mean, they gave up 30 first downs. They were both 2 for 2 on fourth downs. They went for it not often. ODU really likes to go for it on fourth down if it's close, or Heineke punts it, does a little pooch punt. But they do like to go for it a lot. Apparently Rice likes to go for it some too. But I mean, third downs, they gave up 10 out of 16. That's not a good kind of defense there at all. And the third down, it's you have them on third down. If you can hold them there, you get the ball back, and they failed to do that quite a few times. As Old Dominion only converted 5 times on third down, but they didn't have as many third down chances as they only had 11. But total yards, they gave up 526. Passing, that was about half at 242, just under half, and then rushing, they gave 248. The rushing killed them, 248 yards rushing. They'd been doing good at not giving up those rushing yards to the other team, but things changed. Rice really stuck it to him on the running attack. Their running back was just having a phenomenal day in the backfield. One guy had 150 yards rushing. Uh, Davis had 150 yards rushing. He was averaging about 6.5 yards per carry. He didn't have a touchdown though. But Dillard only had 70 yards rushing. He had 10 less carries, but he had 3 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards per rush. But 3 touchdowns, 70 yards, you got to stop that man. You got to know they're running it. They only threw 2 touchdowns. I don't think Old Dominion forced a turnover that entire game, which is not something you want to see the defense, who just put on a phenomenal showing. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Versus Eastern Michigan, they were just a different type of animal. And then to come out and get no turnovers, to come out and uh, give up 500 plus yards total offense. Yes, ODU did match. Heineke had a day. We sat on this show and said Heineke's due for a breakout game. This is probably going to be it. He's due for that game, and he was. He was the CUSA Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, obviously. He's passed for 430 passing yards, averaged 10 yards, so averaged a first down per throw, and had 5 touchdowns. He just put a shellacking on Rice's defense, or lack thereof defense, I should say. They didn't rush the ball spectacularly well, combined for a total of 100 yards for the team. Johnson had 50. Heineke actually had quite a few with 36. They only rushed Lowry once, and he got 11 yards. Lowry, if he gets a few more touches, I think he's going to be able to be that all-star running back they might need, so to speak. Maybe not all-star, but he'll be a quality running back in the backfield. Right now he's kind of mentoring under Johnson, but I wouldn't be surprised. Johnson is a sophomore, so he's pretty young still, but we'll see how much longer he keeps that position with Lowry breathing down his neck. Lowry's a freshman, true freshman at that. He's been running pretty good, but the story of the day was just Heineke. 27 for 43, so his completion rating was okay, just above half, a little over half. 430 passing yards though, like I mentioned earlier, a Heineke day, something we're expected to. We moved to CUSA, ODU moved to CUSA. Wasn't expecting a whole lot, wasn't expecting that Heineke that we'd seen in the lower divisions, but we got it. This game versus Rice. In the first CUSA game too, that's something that's good to see from Heineke and the Old Dominion Monarchs. Next week, or I guess this week, Friday game, first nationally televised game for Old Dominion. It's going to be on Fox 1 Sports. They play Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee is 2-2 on the season. They're 1-0 in CUSA. And it's going to be a big task for Old Dominion. First CUSA game in the Monarch Stadium over there in St. Ballard. And we'll see if the home crowd can do it for them, especially being a first televised game. There's a buzz going around campus that's kind of just like anything, like nothing other. It's something it's got that college football atmosphere, and it'll be really interesting to see who is or how they play in this moment. ODU's projected to win by 3 right now. It's what Vegas has them at. So they're expecting a close game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is pretty close. But if Heineke can just continue his tear through CUSA as he started, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. And then Marshall is kind of Marshall's in 2 weeks, but just get on that for a minute. Marshall is the favorite to win CUSA. They have just been on a tear through CUSA. They're 4-0. They just beat Akron 48-17. They're off next week. Then they play Old Dominion in 2 weeks. That is really the breaking point for Old Dominion. If Old Dominion can beat Marshall, they have a shot at being something pretty spectacular. They have a shot at maybe winning the CUSA if they do that. Because if they can beat Middle Tennessee on this big game at home, they'll play Marshall. And I mean, Marshall, other than maybe a Vanderbilt, at Vanderbilt's going to be difficult. Other than that, they should be able to win the majority of these games. So if they can beat Marshall, Old Dominion may have a shot at the CUSA title. But it all starts Friday night against Middle Tennessee. And that'll be a big game. But going back to the game they played on Saturday in Texas, it was really hot. The announcers kept talking about how hot it was there and everything. I think a few people cramped up. But Heineke went out there and had himself a day. Almost 2 receivers at 100 receiving yards. Pascal, who's just been one of the better receivers this year, yardage-wise, he's kind of been a favorite for Heineke. Him and Vaughn, obviously. Vaughn's been there. But Pascal has been dropping the ball a lot, so that's something he needs to really work on. But he had a touchdown, 111 passing yards, receiving, sorry. The second one is a little surprising. David Washington, I know you guys know that name as a quarterback. He was a backup quarterback last year. But this year, they moved him wide receiver with all the problems they've had with wide receivers. They had to get rid of a lot of them and all that. So Washington actually had a great receiving day, just under 100 yards at 99. And then Vaughn had 2 touchdowns, 76 yards, something we expect from Vaughn on a day-to-day basis. And Heineke with the deep ball was just deadly. He had all of the receivers that caught more than 50 yards passing had a 40-plus yard reception. So Heineke was throwing the long ball and successful at it, as he didn't throw an interception that entire game, which is something you like to see when you're watching Heineke. Is he's got 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and none of them this game. He threw one last game. Hampton's really what killed him. Hampton, he had threw 2, and then North Carolina State, he threw 1, which isn't bad for playing North Carolina State. And then Eastern Michigan, he had a dud of a game and threw 1. But Old Dominion, Friday night, get your tickets if you haven't. If they're still there, I think they're actually sold out. But that'll be an interesting one. Talking about some close games. Florida State and Clemson. Not something everybody was expecting before Jameis Winston was pulled from the game, so to speak. He had to be benched for verbal, I guess, vulgar language he used in the school cafeteria the Monday before the game. So Winston did not get to play, and that made it for a very interesting game as it went to overtime. 23-17 was the total. Florida State ran in a touchdown at the very last, or when they got the ball in the overtime. They stopped Clemson from scoring in overtime, and then they did what they had to do there. The quarterback, Sean McGuire, he didn't have a great day. QBR of 26.2. He threw 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 304 yards, so he really did throw the ball for a lot of yards. Not that many touchdowns. But if you think about it, they only had 3 touchdowns all game. So he threw 1 of them. Obviously, he's not going to be the starter. He's not taking Jameis Winston's spot. But he showed he can come in, do a little better. He'll do a little better if he has to come in again. It's his first game. Clemson's ranked 22nd. So there's that. We'll see if he can do better if he gets the shot again. I don't see that happening again. I think Jameis Winston really took this one to the heart, kind of hit him a little harder than he was expecting. He came out in pads. Coach told him to turn around and take the pads off. So the whole game he was in his jersey, no pads, and a hat. A lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people didn't even want him on the sideline. I don't have a problem with him being on the sideline, though. It's still a college atmosphere, still his team, because it is his team. So him being on the sideline, he was just kind of cheering on his team and say, oh, that's not a punishment. He did have to watch them play. I think that's actually harder for him than him not being at the stadium. To watch them go on the field, make mistakes, and he see everything that's going on, and he can do absolutely nothing about it. Yes, he can talk to the quarterback there and everything, but there's not a whole lot he could do sitting there on the sideline. But another big kind of takeaway from this game is they did give up 407 yards to Clemson, who has an okay powered offense. But the defense for Florida State, man, they were healthy. There was nothing wrong with them. Nobody on the defense was suspended. Yet they gave up over 400 total yards and over 300 in the air. If they want to continue, be the number 1 team, win another championship, they're going to have to get better on defense. As we found out through the Super Bowl last year, you got to be good on defense to win the big game. And that's going to reign true for the college ranks. So if Florida State wants to repeat, their defense is definitely going to need to step it up. Yes, Jameis Winston will put up more than 23 points. Yes, Clemson's defense isn't that good, so they should have put up more than 23 points. But the defense should have not given up 17 points and over 400 yards if you're going to win a championship again. You just can't. It's not going to happen. You can't do it. Oklahoma. That's they've came out and kind of asserted their dominance. Oklahoma is actually one of the favorites to make it. If it ended right now, they'd be one of the favorites to make it into the championship or into the new playoff system. They beat West Virginia 45-33. Again, the defense there was not up to par with what's needed to be done. Giving up 33 points to West Virginia, who's not a great team. Big 12, they've lost to Alabama, they've lost to Oklahoma. Yes, they beat Maryland 48-37, and they beat Townsend 54-0. Townsend's nowhere. Maryland's okay, but West Virginia, they put up 23 against Alabama, who's Alabama, we all know, has a great defense. Oklahoma apparently does not. So maybe the West Virginia Mountaineers have a better offense than I'm giving them credit for. But if you're going to win a championship, you can't be giving up 33 points and all those yards to West Virginia, especially when you're going to be playing high-powered offenses like Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, just to name a few. You're going to have to be able to contain them and keep them under 500 yards total. West Virginia 2-2, 500 yards on the number 4 team in the nation. A close one for top 10s as well was also Oregon. I always say Oregon is going to lose one they shouldn't have. We were sitting in the dorm, and I tell Tyler, hey, watch this game. Washington State's going to play them a lot closer than anything. He's like, Washington State? No, you're crazy. Final score 38-31, 7 points. Mariota had 5 touchdowns, and they still only won by 8. Mariota's looking right now as the Heisman winner. I mean, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 329 passing yards, only incompleted 4 passes. He's looking like the guy who's going to be lifting that trophy at the end of the season if he keeps playing the way he does. But he may not be lifting that brand new championship trophy for the playoffs if the defense keeps playing as it does, and the offensive line. The offensive line that entire game had him scrambling. I don't know how many sacks were there. I didn't get that many. But he ran for 58 yards on 13 carries, but his long was 41. He was sacked quite a few times. I don't see a sack little column here. It was not a good day for the offensive line and the defense. Yes, they only gave up 31, which usually that's enough for Oregon to blow them out. Oregon usually scores 70. But again, I keep going back to it. Defense wins championships. You want to win this, you got to have defense. And Oregon's a team. They're playing Arizona this week. Arizona's undefeated. Although they did win on a Hail Mary pass. I will point that out. But again, it's not looking good. Then they play UCLA. Oregon loses some they shouldn't, and it's coming up. They're either going to lose to UCLA, Washington, or Stanford, and then 3 out of the next 4, they could lose 1 easily. So we'll see how that works. But again, Washington State, I said they were going to play them closer than they should because Oregon doesn't like to kind of blow teams out when they should. They'll blow teams out that's like, wow, they look really good, and then they'll play teams like Washington State, and they'll go, wow, they're very mediocre. What happened to the high-powered 500-yard monster performance you just had? Not there anymore. So there's that. So we talked about another team we'll mention losing actually. LSU. LSU play Mississippi State. Sorry. Number 8 team in the nation. LSU, that is. They look like they were going to get destroyed. Mississippi State went from unranked to 14th, by the way, on this win. That's a jump. Like, they might have just been out of it before, but to go to 14th, they jumped a lot of people to move up there. And they beat Southern Miss, UAB, and South Alabama before that. None of those teams are worth jumping to 14th. And then they beat the number 8 team, and they jumped all the way to 14, sorry. But that game, it was a lot closer at the end than it should have been. I can tell you that. Going into the fourth quarter, Mississippi State was just wailing on them. Mississippi State, it wasn't even close. It was 31 to 10 going into the fourth quarter. 31 to 10. All right, people are packing up and leaving. And then LSU scored 19 points in the fourth quarter to make it a close one. They almost came back and won. They had to block a punt or something. It was something weird, and they couldn't do it. Or they had to run it back. Like, it came down to something really weird, and that's that. And I mean, Mississippi State went up 34-10 and then gave up 19 unanswered points. To move up to 14th, and give up 19 unanswered to LSU, yes, the number 8th team in the nation at LSU, I'll give you that. You put up 34, you gave up 19 unanswered, 20 total, gave up 430 total yards, 341 rushing, or passing, 89 rushing. You got to do better. 14th, okay, top 25, I'll give you that easily. They just beat the number 8 team in the nation. They're undefeated. SEC now 1-0. I'll give you 25 to 18 being high, but to jump to 14, they jumped LSU, who only lost one. They jumped a ton of teams. I'll pull this up here just to see who exactly. They jumped over, moving to 14th, Arizona State, BYU, Nebraska. Those are the undefeated teams. They jumped over Ohio State. And by the way, Nebraska looked dominating. I believe Nebraska put a beat down. No, Nebraska beat the U 41-31. Wisconsin, they jumped Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 2-1. Who went 68-17 on Bowling Green. Yes, I know Bowling Green. But the way that they just completely dominated the offensive line. The running back for Wisconsin, just to put this into perspective for you, how dominating the offensive line was, he rushed for 253 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Rushed, not passed, rushed. He ran for more yards than quarterbacks passed for. He ran for more yards than his quarterback, and his quarterback ran for more yards than he passed. And the second string running back ran for 1 less yard than the starting quarterback passed for. Had 2 touchdowns, backup quarterback. Quarterback rushed for a touchdown. Starting running back rushed for 5 touchdowns. The way they just put that beat down on Bowling Green was something you don't see very often. But back to the topic at hand, Mississippi State, 14th. I mean, the USA Today poll has them at 16th. That's the top 25 that has them. AP Top 25 has them at 14th. 16th is even high. I put Wisconsin over them. LSU should probably fall enough to where they get jumped. I mean, Duke's still undefeated. They didn't jump that far. They didn't deserve to jump that high. Yes, it was a nice win. Not convincing because they almost lost it. But it was a nice win. But to be that high, no. A team that made the top 25 that not a lot of people at the beginning of the season would have saw. Actually, I don't think anybody at the beginning of the season would have saw. Was East Carolina University. They have won the past 2 games versus ACC opponents by scoring a combined total of 98 points to 62. They beat Tech in a close one, 28-21, 17th overall, but it was at Tech. A nice win for them. And then they go and play North Carolina back at home, and they beat them 70-41. They put up 70 on North Carolina. 70. Just think 70. They're the 6th best in passing yards. They averaged 392 passing yards per game. They averaged the 18th most points in the nation. at 43.3. Yeah, their defense not that great. Okay, but nobody's saying they're going to win a national championship. That's not. I was ragging on those teams because they didn't. They were winning a national championship or in contention. This team's looking for a nice bowl game. You can put up 70 versus North Carolina. They only lost by 10 to South Carolina. South Carolina's looking pretty good besides that one loss they had to Texas A&M, who Texas A&M is looking like another animal as well. They're a team that's up there. South Carolina's 13th now and beat Georgia by 3 and beat Vanderbilt pretty handily. So to only lose by 10 to them, it's not a bad look. And that's your only loss on the season. And to be honest, they probably shouldn't lose another game. Eastern Carolina, they play SMU, South Florida, Connecticut, Temple. Cincinnati's going to be a close one. Cincinnati's always got a little scrappiness to them. Tulane, Tulsa, UCF. They should beat all of them. I would not be surprised if East Carolina finds themselves in the top 15 at the end of the season. Would not shock me at all. Write it down. East Carolina is going to be top 15 at the end of the season because I don't see them losing another game. I really don't. They're not going to jump the big name Baylor, Notre Dame, UCLA, Ole Miss, even a 2-loss Michigan State, maybe not, with 1 loss in their conference or in their kind of schedule. But top 15 is very, very reasonable for them. And I can see that happening soon, almost. I mean, if they can continue to win the way they do, at some point, the big names are going to fall, and that's where they're going to step in. But a name that's not in the AP polls that I have a problem with, I don't know if anybody else is really talking about it or anything, but I mean, Penn State is undefeated still, and they're not ranked at all. Makes me wonder. Really does. Yes, they've played a couple teams that aren't the best. They played UCF, who I believe that was in Ireland. So they went to Ireland, won by 2. Then they beat Akron pretty handily, 21-3. I'd say that's pretty good. Rutgers was a close one, but Rutgers was supposed to be a close one, 13-10. And then they beat Massachusetts by 48-7. They play Northwestern. They're probably going to win that one. They play Michigan, who's falling off. Probably would have been a good game a while ago, but Michigan's fallen off. Then they play Ohio State. That'll be really the game that kind of determines how their season in the grand scheme of things kind of comes off. If they can beat Ohio State, they're going to be kind of looking upwards. And then Indiana, they should beat Temple, Illinois, yeah. And they play number 9 Michigan State. That's going to be one. Yes, they play both Ohio State and Michigan State at home. But if they can beat both of those teams, there's no reason why they should not be top 10. Not maybe even top 5, depending on who's left that's undefeated. But Ohio State, if they can beat them, they should be in it. But right now, undefeated at 4-0, the way that Heineke's playing, yeah, okay, or not Heineke, wow. Hackenberg's playing. He's only got 4 touchdowns, but he's passed for over 1,000 yards, 1,261. His touchdowns aren't good. His touchdowns are okay, like I said. His interception ratio isn't the greatest. But they're running the ball well, and they're winning. Their defense is doing pretty good. The most they've given up is 24 in a game, and that was the UCF in Ireland. In America, they've given up a total of 20 points in 3 games. That's not bad. And to look at that total and to say they don't deserve to be in the top 25, I don't know how you can say that. Undefeated, they put Kansas State over top of them. Kansas State has played SF Austin and Iowa State in Auburn. They lost to Auburn. What win there puts them in the top 25? Because you lost to a good team, so you're in the top 25? No. Oklahoma State. They played Missouri State and UTSA. And then they lost to Florida State. What win there puts them in the top 25? There's a lot of teams that it's like, why are they in the top 25? And there's no convincing wins. Like, there weren't blowout wins. Okay, some of them were. But they weren't against, like, East Carolina beat Tech, who was ranked at the time 17th. There's just teams at the bottom part of the 25 that make me wonder. Along with Duke, Duke should probably be in the top 25. I take Kansas State and Oklahoma State out of it. Duke has beat Oakland, Troy, Kansas, and Tulane, but they haven't scored less than 34 points, and they haven't given up more than 17. They haven't lost yet, and they haven't played bad. I don't understand how teams that have lost and are playing and haven't beat anybody are in the top 25. It just doesn't make any sense. But I guess that's why I'm not in the committee to kind of find out who is making the playoffs and who's getting ranked where. I guess that's why, because I don't see where they're coming from with these. And they're not in any of them. They're not in the USA Today. They're not in the AP Top 25. They're not in any of them. Duke's in the AP or in the USA Today at 23. That's fair assessment. They dropped Oklahoma State out of it. That's fair assessment. Kansas State's the next to go, and Penn State should be in their spot. But we'll see in time. A lot of games going on this week. A lot of them will determine what happens further on in the season. So we'll move on. I mentioned a trade in basketball that's kind of swirling around a little bit. Don't know how much weight it has, but there were a few articles on it that thought it might be interesting, kind of bring it to your attention. Talk about it a little bit, So we all know Rondo came out and said that he was not happy with his contract being there. He just didn't want to be there anymore. He made it very clear he's not re-signing all that. Kind of makes you wonder, okay, they should probably get rid of him. Get something for him. We learned from LeBron. You can get something for him. Let's go ahead and do that. So a talk amongst a few blogs and stuff like that, amongst the blogosphere, so to speak, is that OKC would trade for him. Now you go, why would they trade? They got Westbrook. They got this. They got that. Why would you trade for him? If you think about it, it's not a bad idea. Westbrook can play the two guard. He probably should play the two guard. The way he plays, he probably should play the two guard. But he doesn't. He plays the point guard. So who would they trade for? Well, you don't trade away Westbrook, and you don't trade away Durant, and you don't trade away Ibaka. But you have young talent. The trade that I heard mentioned was Reggie Jackson, who I really like Reggie Jackson. Obviously, not more than Rondo. But Reggie Jackson has a lot of upside. And then Kendrick Perkins. I think we all know how I feel about Kendrick Perkins. I think I'd trade him for a team bus. I think Kendrick Perkins is one of the worst players in the NBA. Just because he has so much money being allotted towards him, and he's not making it. That's the one thing that I just want to make clear. I don't think he's the worst player in the NBA, but I don't think he's worth what he's being paid. That's just the only way to say it. But that's an interesting sort of trade there, because also that would give OKC enough cap room with the Kendrick Perkins to sign Rondo for a long-term trade or a long-term contract, which would probably keep Durant there. And then Westbrook, if Durant's there, Westbrook's probably going to take that and stay there. It's going to be a good it would be a good trade for them. It would get them a pure point guard. It would get them some depth if they don't want to play him at a pure point guard, if they want to keep Westbrook where he's at. Playoff times, you got a guy who distributes the ball, because Westbrook, he's good sometimes, other times he takes it on himself. If you can get somebody to pass it around a lot, because Rondo doesn't have to get his points. He can, but he doesn't have to. So that's something that they need. They need that point guard. I like Jeremy Lamb, but if he's coming off the bench to Westbrook at the two guard, I'm completely okay with that. They just got Mitch McGary. I like that pickup there. So they don't have to worry about Perkins being gone, because they got McGary and they got Steve Adams. In the Thunder, I also maybe heard a draft pick thrown in there for the Celtics. The Celtics would get a lot out of this too. The Celtics the past few years have all their draft picks have been power forwards and centers. They must have the most power forwards and centers on their entire team. They're gonna have Russell or Sullinger just playing point guard because they have so many. But that would be a young core with a young coach, Brad Stevens. It's not as far-fetched as we all think. It's right there. It's very possible this trade happens. If they can find a way to get to him, talk to him, convince him a little bit, it's a good trade for both teams. We'll see if they decide to do it. But just thought I'd bring it to your attention, give you a little bit of thought on it. It's going to be interesting. It's really going to be interesting in the NBA this year with all the moves going on and everything. Everybody forming super teams with Cleveland, obviously, the Bulls, the Thunder trying to. I mean, the Spurs staying the same, which is completely fine. The Rockets, the Clippers. We'll see. It's gonna be a fun year in the NBA when it comes up. But switching sports a little bit to baseball. Where I wanna. Jeter finishes his last home game Thursday. Plays his last home game Thursday. Just thinking back on how long he's been in the league and everything he's done for it, it's just hard to imagine that that's really coming to an end. They're going to miss the playoffs. Would have been nice to see them. I'm not a Yankees fan. I don't like the Yankees. But it would have been nice to see him end on top. Like, I don't know, Ray Lewis did. Again, not a Ray Lewis fan. But it would have been nice to see him finish on top. But doesn't always happen. Storyline happy ending. So their last game at home with Jeter is Thursday. We'll see what exactly the Yankees do. It's going to be a kind of heartfelt moment. The fans are, I'm sure, going to standing ovation. I mean, they're playing the Orioles, who the Orioles saw him through his entire career being in the same division. Thursday, 7:05 MLB Network. Tune in, see Jeter's final home game. And then he goes away, his last series, which I actually like this. He plays at Boston for his final game. I know bitter rivals, oh, that's horrible. The Red Sox know how to do it right. The Red Sox really, like Rivera, they know what they've added to the rivalry. They embrace it. They kind of go out. They standing ovation. They know. Boston understands the baseball aspect that these players have had on the entire game. They don't see him as a guy in pinstripes when that comes down. They see him as a baseball player who did so much for the game that they owe respect to him. And they'll give it to him. So that'll be a nice, heartfelt story there. The finishing in his rival town. Disappointed they couldn't make the playoffs, but it doesn't always happen how you want it to. So there's still baseball to go on, though. Did mention they have more games to play, and there's a lot of other games to play here, as the MLB playoffs are going on, and it's going to be a fun one. It's really going to be a fun one. We got a couple games tonight, but the big games, big teams to look out for. Kansas City's only game back from Detroit. Detroit, on paper, probably the best team out there. Just pitching, everything. Detroit, if you were looking at strictly paper, has the best team in the league. But that's why we play the game. Kansas City's only game back. Don't know how many games they have left. I can find that out here. But Kansas City's coming out of nowhere. I mean, they play Cleveland a few more times. They play Cleveland, I believe, twice. And they finish it off with the White Sox. So they play Cleveland 2 more times. Then they go to the White Sox for a 4-game series. And that really determines where they get in this whole playoff fiasco. It's pretty apparent that Detroit and Kansas City are going to make the playoffs. Now it's just which team's getting where. Detroit's playing the White Sox right now for 2 more games, and then they play Minnesota at home. It'll be interesting to see who gets what. It'd be nice if they just played a series. That would be something just remarkable to watch. But obviously we don't get that. So those are 2 teams to definitely look out for, Kansas City and Detroit. But another thing is, in the wild card race right now, Seattle's only 2 games back. If Kansas City just blows it, or even Cleveland or Seattle, if Kansas City blows it, they're right there. I mean, 2 games for Seattle, 3.5 for Cleveland. Cleveland's a stretch. I don't see them winning all of them and Kansas City losing all of them, or even Oakland losing all of them, but it's possible. But Seattle's still there. Kansas City kind of came out of nowhere, so we don't know how legit they are. And the AL, that's kind of what's in the AL. The NL, a little more set, just kind of who's going where. Pittsburgh's only 2.5 back from St. Louis in the division in NL Central. San Francisco's only 3.5 back from the Dodgers, and I believe they have a series. They do. They beat the Dodgers last night. They play them again tonight. Yep, tonight's Tuesday. They play them again tonight, 10 o'clock on ESPN. I recommend you watch that. But then they play 2 more, and then they play San Diego. San Diego's not the greatest team in the league. They got Peavy. It's okay. But the Giants could still win it. I mean, yeah, the Dodgers play the Rockies. But whoever wins this series, the next 2 games, has the leg up to win the NL West. It's going to be those are 2 teams to watch as well. That's going to be a fun run. Along with St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's probably not going to catch them, but it's possible. And then Washington just blew everybody else out, being 15.5 up on the next closest, Mets and Atlanta. And in the wild card, right now Pittsburgh has the upper hand in the NL league, or NL wild card, sorry. Milwaukee's 5.5 back, or 5 back, so it's pretty much over at this point from Milwaukee. San Francisco and Pittsburgh are tied, but Pittsburgh's won the series there, so they'd have the upper hand. So it's going to be interesting there. And the winner of that, I believe, plays the Nats, who I just mentioned. They do. They play the Nats. So it's going to be interesting. Detroit could end up with the wild card playing Oakland, and then the winner of that would have to play the Angels, and Kansas City could be playing the Orioles, and the Orioles could be Kansas City. It's not over yet, guys. It's really not over yet. Baseball, kind of, everybody mentions, oh, baseball needs that sense of urgency. Baseball needs this. Baseball needs that. Here it is. Baseball is front and center, guys. Let's hold on and watch. NFL's in turmoil right now. You're still going to watch the games, but it's only Thursday, Sunday, Monday. Baseball right now, tonight, tomorrow night. There's still 5, 6, 7 games left that really matter. This is the prime part of baseball. And people are wondering, oh, it needs a sense of urgency. It needs this. It needs that. It needs to be shorter. When each game means so much right now, it's going to be a good one. Go ahead and watch. And just take in America's pastime. Because we're in for a long ride. It's going to be good. All right, now football, the NFL. What you all been waiting for. My power rankings, fantasy pickups, and deeper leagues if you don't have them yet. If they're still available, go get them. Recaps of a couple games. Start with James Harrison's coming back out of retirement. coming back to play for the Steelers. The Steelers had a lot of injuries to the linebacker core versus Carolina, which they won my game of the week. It wasn't as close as Tyler's. Tyler called Redskins-Eagles, which was a remarkable game. Ooh. It was just high-flying, no defense. Kirk Cousins. Oh, Kirk Cousins has to take that starting job. Yes, he lost. But if he can keep playing like that, he's going to win the games. And he needs to be starting, regardless of what RG3 does or does not do when he comes back. He just has to be started. And Nick Foles just had a remarkable day as well. There were ejections. Nick Foles was on the ground half of the game, just getting hit. And he still did what he did. He still had a remarkable day passing. High scoring, I think it was 37-34. Just absolutely no defense, all offense. Amazing to watch. It was fun to watch for everybody. And then, of course, the obvious game of the week that neither of us really wanted to pick just because it was the obvious game of the week. Denver at Seattle. Looked like it was over. And then Peyton Manning just carved up the defense with 40 seconds to score a touchdown. They got the 2-point conversion, send it to overtime. You're thinking, oh man, Peyton Manning's going to do this. He's going to lead them back. He's going to beat Seattle at Seattle. They lose the coin toss. Doesn't get to touch the ball. Marshawn Lynch, beast mode, took it to the house, scored it, and they win. Seattle continues their run of just dominance at home. They can't be stopped at home. They just can't. But back to James Harrison. He's in the he's coming back to the Steelers. Tomlin took the smart route, talked to him because he knew that in 2008 he had a domestic abuse charge. He talked to him. He said, "Hey, things have changed. You gotta not do that." He understands. He's just coming back for one season, or the rest of the season, I guess. So that's kind of the news of the week. News of the week, so to speak. Fantasy free agent fines. There's a few. If for some reason you watch this show and you still haven't listened to me, Kelvin Benjamin, go get him. He had 17 points last game versus the Steelers. Bad game. I don't know why you don't have him. I told you to. Everybody told you to. Go get him right now if he's available on your waiver. If you're first, hopefully you're first, go get him. Spend your first one on him because Cam Newton and him are just going to get better. They're just going to become better and better and better. He's 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". He's something like that. He's just going to get better chemistry. And it's just going to become a fantasy gold mine. The Ravens running back, Lorenzo, he had a great game. I had Forsett, very disappointed in that. I picked up Forsett, thought he was going to do well. I benched Jennings for the Giants. That was a mistake. But Forsett, I don't know what he did. Bernard Pierce is close to playing, but not quite sure yet. So if you're in a deep league, this is going to be a guy you want. Or a guy you can pick up and get some points from. He did very well, obviously, last game. But again, if you have a solid core running backs, maybe a flex back, we'll see. It really depends on how Pierce does. If Pierce is back, I'd say don't go for him. But if Pierce is out, I'd say go ahead and take that. Jordan Matthews for the Eagles, he went off last game. That's the only way to put it. I mean, Macklin obviously gets his points. Riley Cooper hasn't been doing anything. Matthews is there. Matthews is coming for the second string wide receiver. He's right there, the second wide receiver. Number 2, Jordan Matthews. Go get him out if you can. He's only owned in like 4% of leagues or something. Go ahead and go get him. If Kelvin Benjamin's there, get Benjamin. But if he's not, Jordan Matthews, with the way that Nick Foles is thrown, go ahead and get him right now. Just go get him. Okay, tight end. I actually need to do this. I had don't know if you saw Vikings tight end. He's out for 6 weeks. He's got to get surgery. But Dennis Pitt is out for the season with the Ravens, so Owen Daniels is coming in. Daniels was good in Texas when he was with the Texans. He did very well there. He went top tight end. He's decent. If you need a guy, he's there for you. If your league's tight end depleted, he's there for you. But if you need a tight end, I'd say he's the way to go. We'll see how he does. He's only owned in like 7%, something like that. Running back wise, we all know that Arian Foster injured his hamstring. He probably won't be able to play. So then you get the backup. Alfred Blue just passed Jonathan Grimes on the depth chart, so he's next. They're playing the Jets. The Jets usually have a good running defense, though, so you may wait a week on this one to see how Foster does. If Foster plays, Foster might play, so you don't want to waste your number one on him. But just kind of look. Just look. If he's there next week and Foster is still shaky, go ahead and get him. That's all I'm saying. If you need another running back, we just talked about, go ahead and get any running back you can find for the Chargers. Brandon Oliver is probably your best bet. What has done for the season, Ryan Matthews is out for however knows how long. So Donald Brown is there for now, but he did okay. So they're probably going to go ahead and look at Brandon Oliver. He's actually owned in 0% of leagues. According to ESPN, he is owned in 0.0% of leagues. So go ahead, try. Chris Harris, compares him to a Darren Sproles. So maybe a Darren Sproles type. So if you have space, go ahead. If you have like Peyton Manning this week, need a quarterback, go ahead. Teddy Bridgewater, don't know if you saw it. Teddy Bridgewater got to play. He did okay for what he needed to do. He came in late, obviously with the injury to Matt Castle. So we'll see how he progresses. But if you have a bye week with one of the top quarterbacks, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be, if for some reason, if quarterback for the Browns, can't think of his name, Hoyer is available, go ahead and get him. But that's if you don't have a bye this week, because Hoyer's got a bye this week. But Bortles is also there as well. So it's kind of take your pick. If Bridgewater's in there, get Bortles. I take Bridgewater a little ahead of Bortles, although Bortles' wide receiver core is looking pretty good right now. If you don't have Allen Robinson or Cecil Shorts or Hearns, if any of those are available, go get those as well. Allen Robinson isn't taken in many leagues at all. And then finally, last receiver I'd say go ahead and take John Brown. Now you guys are going, who's John Brown? Who's John Brown? Arizona. Oh, they have Larry Fitzgerald. Why would they do that? John Brown has 3 out of the 4 touchdowns that they have thrown this year. 3 out of the 4. Yes, they have Larry Fitzgerald, but doesn't look like Larry Fitzgerald is the number 1 option anymore. Not exactly what people would expect. John Brown, yes, he's not going to get you that yardage. He only has 9 receptions, but he's going to be found more in the he's going to be found more deep balls. It's going to happen. They're going to see it more and more. You're going to see him get more and more yards. And go, why didn't I pick him up? Maybe next week, if he's still available, because the Cardinals are in a bye week. So if you have room, go ahead. If you don't, go ahead and drop him. Or go ahead and pick him up. And that's what I got for fantasy. So now it's on to the power rankings. I'll give you ESPN's power rankings, since I don't have Tyler here to compare mine to. I'll give you ESPN's. We'll go 10, maybe 15. I'll go 15. And then we'll go my 15. 1 Seattle at 2-1. 2 the Bengals, 3-0. 3 the Broncos, 2-1. 4 the Eagles, 3-0. 5 the Cardinals, 3-0. 6 the Chargers, 2-1. 7th the Patriots at 2-1. 8th the Bears at 2-1. 9th the Falcons at 2-1. 10th the Panthers at 2-1. 11th the Steelers at 2-1. 12th the Lions at 2-1. 13th the Ravens at 2-1. 14th the Colts at 1-2, and to round out the 15, it'd be the Saints at 1-2. So that's the top 15 according to ESPN. Mine's a little different. Mine's a tad bit different. Number 1, I'm gonna keep the Seahawks. Seahawks look good against the Broncos. They didn't look as good as obviously the Super Bowl last year, but they look good against the Broncos. Russell Wilson is just another quarterback when it comes to big games. Just a different species when it comes to playing the big-name quarterbacks like Manning, Rodgers, Breeze, Brady. I mean, ESPN's all over it. He's 7-0 versus those guys. He's just another animal when it comes to those guys. He becomes a different player. And for that overtime, he was something that we hadn't seen him do that entire game. He took over. He scrambled. He got the first down. He extended plays. That's what they need to have to win another Super Bowl and back-to-back. And right now, they have it, and that's why they're number 1. Number 2, I have the Cardinals. I really think the Cardinals are the real deal. They have the second best cornerback in the league, Patrick Peterson. Yes, Patrick Peterson is the second best cornerback in the league. And one of the best return men in the league. Their defense is just impeccable. The offense is doing this without their starting quarterback of the year, Carson Palmer. They're not even using Larry Fitzgerald. They're using John Brown, who I just mentioned. Malcolm Floyd's just kind of standing there. It's the Cardinals and Bruce Arians are doing something that nobody's really taking notice to. But I think it's time to take notice to. The Cardinals are the real deal. And they're showing it. And that's why I have them second. ESPN, I'm 5th. I have them second. 3rd, I have the Broncos. Yes, they lost to Seattle, but they lost in overtime to Seattle. They looked really bad the first half and really good the second half. If they would have got another chance to get on the field and go play, and on the overtime, and at least match, I have no doubt in my mind Peyton Manning would have been able to match. He's 1 touchdown away from 500 on his career, and I think he could have thrown it if he would have got the opportunity to match a touchdown, which isn't allowed in the NFL, which would be fun to see him do college, but that's not the way they do it. So the Broncos 3. 4th, I have the Eagles. Actually, no. 4th, I have the Bengals. The Bengals, I can't get on yet. I don't think they're as high quality as some of the other teams out there. The Bengals are good. Yes. A.J. Green, Andy Dalton, their running back core is doing, 2 or 3 of them is doing amazing. I just can't get on them yet because they haven't been able to win the big game. So for that, I have them 4. I just can't put them at any higher yet. I just got to see a little more. 5, I have the Eagles. The only reason I have the Eagles 5 is, they're 3-0, blah. They can't do anything in the first half. The first half, they look like they're asleep. And then they have to play from behind in the second half. When they play big teams, when they play good teams, like outstanding teams. Yes, the Redskins are not an outstanding team. They play a team like the Seahawks, Broncos, Chargers, Cardinals, Bengals, Patriots, Bears, Lions. If they give up 17 in the first half and only put up 3, they're going to lose. There's no way around that. I don't care how good they are in the second half. They're going to lose. And that's why they're 5th, because you have to come out and play better in the first half if you want to win a championship. It's just the way it is. Sixth, the Chargers. I agree with ESPN there. The Chargers are looking pretty good on the offensive side. They beat Seattle. They won last week. They played pretty well. They lost the first week, obviously, to Arizona, who I have very, very high. They beat Buffalo, who was undefeated. I did jump on Buffalo's bandwagon. Still there a little bit. Still there. I really like Arizona. I'm on that one. I started on that one, though. I said Arizona was going to be really good this year. But the Chargers have been playing really well. They only lost to Arizona by one as well. So we'll see what they do throughout the season. But right now, the Chargers are looking like one of the better offenses in the league. But they have lost two of their running backs. So we'll see how they adjust to that. Eighth, I have the Bears. The Bears played okay last night. Not amazing, but they also were missing one of their star wide receivers in Brandon Marshall, who went out early. And if Jay Cutler cannot turn the ball over, they're going to be solid. They're going to be a solid squad. They need to run better because Forte is just, I don't know, Forte fell asleep or something last game. I don't know what he was doing. But if they can prevent the turnovers, they're going to play well. They're going to be a top quality team. And right now they're tied for first in their division with the Lions, Packers. So that's why I have them seventh. I think their defense is better than anybody else in their division. Lions, Packers, Vikings. Yeah, that's why I have them seventh. Eighth, I have the Falcons. They look just dominating against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, the Falcons had a down year last year. They played worse than they really were. I think a lot of people think they were that bad, but they played worse than they really are. But the way they just put it to Tampa Bay is just 60 points or whatever, 55. That's not fair. I mean, they literally ran them out of the building. 56-14, and the 14 came on junk time in the last minutes of the game. Interception for a touchdown off their backup. Garbage time. I mean, the Falcons looked dominating. And right now, they're leading, or they're tied for the lead in their conference with the Panthers. But right now, I'd say the Falcons are the best team in their conference. The Saints don't look that good. The Panthers just lost to the Steelers, so we'll see how they rebound from that. And then the Texans. Falcons may make the playoffs this year, which would be interesting seeing as the Saints would probably miss then. So that's why I have the Falcons 8th. Ninth, I'll put the Patriots. I have them falling pretty far. They would fall 10. No, sorry. They would fall 4 from last week to ninth. Because, yes, they won. Yes, they're 2-1. But they haven't looked good. They have not played a game where it's like, wow. They look like they're a good team playing quality football and just taking control of the game. Minnesota, yes, they won 30-7. Miami, when they lost, they were up by a lot, and then they just gave it all up. I mean, Miami is okay, but not enough to beat them when they're down by 20 or whatever, down by 17. And then they beat Oakland 16-9. 16-9. What? That's not a Patriots game. The Patriots are known for throwing touchdowns and doing this and doing that. 16-9. It wasn't a good day for them, obviously. It was just, that's why it's not been a good season for them, actually. They won, so it is what it is. You can move on. But at what point do you go, okay, they need to win a little more convincingly, or they're going to get beat by a team that they shouldn't get beat by? Or they're going to get beat by a team in their conference. Like, I don't know, the Dolphins, the Bills. At some point they're gonna lose, and it's gonna be like they have fallen off. I mean, Tom Brady's been horrible. He's 24th in QBR. If you have him for if you have him for fantasy, you're not happy with him. It's just not what something you want to see at all. Look who's
Who are we not happy at?
Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'm not.
You don't have a mic, sir.
Yeah, I'll get there. Give me a second. There we go.
There you go.
I'm not happy at Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady's just. Oh, I guess we can get your power rankings here in a minute. I was on 9, so I'll finish it out. But yeah, Tom Brady. What happened?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you trade him for Forte, which doesn't look like a bad trade because Forte's just doing it just as bad. And 10th, I'll go with the Steelers. I got them one above the what ESPN does because they ran the ball really well. They both topped 100 yards rushing, both Blunt and Bell. Ben looked pretty good, and Antonio Brown looks like a top 5 receiver in the league. Not something I would have guessed at the beginning of the season, but he is their only receiver. So again, my top 10 were Seattle, Seattle, Cardinals, Broncos, Bengals, Eagles, Chargers, Bears, Falcons, Patriots, Steelers.
My number one, I'm probably going to have to go with probably the Bengals. Bengals have played some solid teams. They won all 3 of them. They came out of nowhere. Andy Dalton's looking good. Even Mohamed Sanu's looking like a good quarterback. Their running back in Giovanni Bernard has been going off, and their defense is excessively solid right now, and they have a +6 turnover margin. So, I mean, that's doing well if you can keep the ball away from the other team and keep it for yourself. And I don't believe in putting somebody who's 2-1 above somebody who's got a perfect season going, which is why number 2 for me is the Eagles. However, they did not look too good against the Redskins last week, barely pulling by with a win. But maybe sometimes you slump, and the idea that the Redskins finally pulling together a new offense, now they have Kirk Cousins there. He's much better for the system with John Gruden. Number 3, so I lied. I'll put a team above a 3-0 team. I can't put the Cardinals number 3. They haven't really showed me enough of who they've played. Number 3, I'll go with the Seahawks. I would have put the Broncos, but the Seahawks beat them. Might have been in overtime. It might have been what people would call controversial because the Broncos didn't have a chance to do an offensive strike throughout it. But if your defense can't stop at 80-yard, then you don't deserve it anyway. So I'll put the Seahawks there. Number 4, I'll put the Broncos. I mean, it's still the Broncos. I still don't think Peyton's thrown interception yet, and he's 1 touchdown away from 500 career touchdown passes. Number 5, I'll put the Cardinals because they are still 3-0. They're looking really good. We'll actually find out next week which one's better, Denver or Cardinals, because they're playing each other.
Actually, 2 weeks. They're both on a bye this week.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, week 5.
He's got 1 interception.
Oh, so he did it last game. Okay. Number 6, I guess I'll put
difficult.
Yeah, number 6, I'm going to have to go with the Bears.
Da Bears?
And Da Bears. Even without Brandon Marshall there, even though he came in the second half and had 1 catch, the Bears looked really good. Alshon Jeffrey was taking over the game. They just need to work on their run. They don't have a running game whatsoever, and that's something to say with Matt Forte there.
Yeah.
However, they did play the number 1 ranked rush defense in the Jets, but that's still no excuse for who's supposed to be a top 3 running back to do, I think, like 25 yards.
Yeah, he might as well have taken a nap on the sideline.
Number 7, I'll put the Patriots. Tom Brady's looking shaky, but he came back, and he's starting to look a little bit more Tom Brady-esque. I think he had 2 touchdowns and about 250 yards. Not a great game for Tom Brady. For most other ones, you're like, hey, that's not too sad. But they'll come back. Gronkowski's getting into the groove. They're starting to get a good run game in there. Their defense isn't looking awful, which is something they can't normally say. Number 8, I will put myself some Chargers. They only averaged 2.3 yards per rush last week, but that's also because Danny Woodhead decided to break his ankle or dislocate his ankle.
And Ryan Matthews was already out.
Ryan Matthews, like, instantly. So now they have Donald Brown, their 3rd-string running back, who I think you should pick up just for the next coming weeks if you have, say, like someone on a bye week. Pick
I also
up
mentioned
Donald Brown.
Their I guess 4th-string running back. Apparently, he's been compared to the next Darren Sproles, and he's owned in 0% of fantasy leagues.
and he's fourth string. I'm not going to compare to anybody. If you're a fourth string, you might as well
Well,
be
he was
practice
just
squad.
picked up.
Oh, okay. Number 9, I'll put the Panthers. They may have lost this week, and they may have allowed 250 rushing yards. But other than that single bad game, Calvin Benjamin's coming off to look like somebody who's going to be fantastic in the league. Their running core wasn't bad. They had Jonathan Stewart ran a few yards right up the middle there. And their defense is still looking pretty solid. They have the defensive player of the year from last year in Lichell, I think that's how you pronounce it, is their middle linebacker. And number 10, I'm going to put the Lions. Actually, no, I'm going to put the Falcons. If you want to have a Roddy White come back and do well, Julio Jones is like the next, if he continues to get really great, could be the next Calvin Johnson of the league. He had 120 yards or something, 2 touchdowns, 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they even took him out. I mean, this destruction of Tampa Bay, while not a great team, it says something about their high-powered offense.
I would like to say, though, that I think he's made his own name.
Who?
Julio Jones.
He has.
I think he's his own player. I mean, I think a lot of players strive to be like a Calvin Johnson, but I think the way Julio's played throughout the previous years, that he's made his own little name. People want to be Julio Jones, so I think he's there.
And I know last week really skewed the stats for him, but they are first in passing yards with 334 per game, so they're doing something right there. And that's going to round out my top 10.
All right. So we'll go next 5. Oh, got to remember who I chose. So 11th, I got the Panthers, like Tyler mentioned just now. Kelvin Benjamin is coming into form. The running backs are starting to get healthy again. A few of them were injured. I think Stewart. I think Stewart was the one that was injured. Their defense did allow a lot of rushing yards, but I don't see that happen again, as they have one of the best defenses in the league. Top 3, I think Arizona and Seattle are probably better, but other than that, I say the Panthers are there. And Cam Newton's back, and he's got another week under his belt off of that injury, so that's why I got him 11th. 12th, the Lions. I think the Lions, they lost Stephen, what was that pronounced, Tolk? Something like that. They're obviously, you guys saw it if you watched the game, one of their linebackers who got a sack and tore his ACL, out for the season, off of celebrating.
Sometimes you pelvic thrust a little bit too hard.
Yeah, tear your ACL. But their offense wasn't there what we expected. I mean, since the first game, Calvin Johnson has done nothing. I mean,
which is great because I only played him in the first game. I only played against him in that game.
Oh, me too, obviously. But they've just been doing nothing. I mean, he's been quiet. The whole offense has really been quiet. I think they scored 17, 16, something like that. So that's why they're my 12. 13th, I'll just stick with the Ravens, go with ESPN. Joe Flacco's doing well. Their third-string running back did all right. We'll see if he continues to do all right, fantasy-wise, obviously. Steve Smith has been coming out and doing very well. Not a whole lot of people expected that after he left Carolina for the first time in his career. And Torrey Smith has not done as well, so Steve Smith being there obviously helped. But it really depends on how good their defense can be and where their running attack is in a few weeks to determine where they're going to move on this. 14th, I'll go Colts. Andrew Luck will look really, 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 really good. I'm very confident in he's going to be the best quarterback at the end of the season with a performance like that. Yes, it was Jacksonville, but I think the way he came out there and just slung it.
Well, to be fair, the only reason they were 0-2 to begin with was because they played the Eagles and the Saints, and those were 2 high-powered offenses also.
No, Eagles and Broncos.
Broncos, my bad.
So that's the only reason they were 0-2 to start with. Now they're 1-2, obviously, and I think things are looking up. And then round it out with, I'm not actually going to go the Saints like ESPN. I think the Saints look really bad. I'm going to go with, Cowboys. Why not? They came back, they tied the record for most points comeback biggest comeback for their franchise at 21. Yes, they gave up a lot of points to a horrible Rams team.
Horrible Rams team.
Horrible Rams team.
Horrible Rams team.
Yeah.
Zach Stacy's a top 5 running back, and they have a top 3 defense. They don't have
A
passing
quarterback.
attack.
Yeah, which
but that
which
doesn't
you
make
need
them
in the
horrible.
NFL.
That makes their offense not too great.
You need a quarterback in the NFL.
You also need a defense, and they have that.
Well, they gave up what? 37 points? Wasn't a good defensive day for them. Well, Tyler will click it here. They gave up 34.
Ooh.
Not a good defensive day. So, I'll go Dallas. I think Romo played okay. DeMarco Murray's the best running back in the league right now.
I can give you that.
Yeah, I name another running back. If you have another running back, tweet us. Cupcheck_radio.
Jennings.
Yeah, one good game though. Yeah.
Actually, he's had 2. He's amassed over 100 yards twice now. Trust me, I would know this.
Oh, I know you would. I just fantasy-wise, he hasn't been good.
Except for when you played him this week.
I didn't play him this week. So, that's my top 15. That's my 11 through 15.
My 11, I'm gonna have to go with the Lions. I don't know why. I just feel Lions there.
You just feel Lions there?
Yeah, I'm feeling the Lions. Number 12, I'm going to go with the Steelers. LeGarrette Blount is finally coming back to his Tampa Bay running days, along with Le'Veon Bell coming out of nowhere and doing really well. It's the first time Pittsburgh has had a multi-100-yard rusher since 1986. So, and that was with Ernest Jackson, who is obviously a fantastic running back in history. Steelers, if they can get it together, get their defense back on point, they should be solid throughout the rest of the year, maybe even make it to an AFC playoff. Number 13, I'm going to go with the Colts. Andrew Luck is looking stellar. He's the first quarterback since they started recording this data set to have no incompletions with at least 5 attempts at 20 yards or longer, and he went 6 for 6 with that. Their receiving core is looking great. It's coming together with Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hilton, and their running back game isn't too bad. I wish that Ahmad Bradshaw had been like that with the Giants, but he isn't. But with the Colts, he is. And Trent Richardson's starting to get it together a little bit.
A little bit.
Number 14, I'm going to go with the Ravens. Joe Flacco, he's averaging 10 yards, almost 10 yards an attempt, and that's not bad at all. And by almost 10, I mean like 9.1. So
it's almost 10.
It's almost 10. Their defense needs a little bit extra help, but it'll start coming through, and they need to start playing a little bit harder teams because if my never mind. Yeah, harder teams. The 2 wins they have is against Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Cincinnati is their loss, but Cincinnati is a top 2 team right now. So they're average pack. That's why I have them at 14. And 15.
See, you can't put the Saints 15.
No.
It's like you're scrolling through and it's like the Saints are not the 15th best team in the league.
15, I might actually have to go with the Bills. E.J. Manuel is not great. We know that. Sammy Watkins did nothing last game, but last game they probably played nobody.
San Diego.
They played San Diego.
It was 2-1 and beat
their
defending Super Bowl
defense.
champs.
Their defense isn't bad. They have the 6th best rushing defense. Their passing defense is not great. If they are playing Houston next week, they don't really have to worry much about the pass. They have to worry about the rush, and their rush defense is good right there. They have a good running core in Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller, and even Fred Jackson had a nice pass attempt. I mean, E.J. Manuel, I'm off. Never mind. But Sammy Watkins, Fred Jackson, C.J. Spiller, their offense is there. Once the defense comes around, they'll be good to go.
So your top 15.
Yep.
Your 11 through 15 was what? Lions, Steelers,
no,
Colts.
it was Lions, Steelers, Colts, Ravens, and Bills.
So we leave out some 2-1 teams like the Texans.
Really, they only put the Giants up 4. That was a fantastic game last week.
Yeah, but are they better than? They're better than the Browns
And the Dolphins. Maybe not the Skins.
Maybe not. The Dolphins did beat the Patriots.
Yeah, but that was.
You guys beat the Texans.
Hey, the Texans were 2-0. Were the Patriots?
The
Wow.
Texans. The Patriots hadn't lost a game yet. The Chiefs look bad.
Yeah,
The
Jets
Chiefs
look
really
bad. Yeah, I totally put the Giants at like number 4 right now.
I think they're the best team in the league. The Packers though, the Packers look awful.
Yeah.
Oh God. They lost to Detroit. They only scored 7. They lost to Seattle. Okay, I get Seattle. They beat the Jets barely.
And I mean, Aaron Rodgers has 700 yards and 5 touchdowns on the season, but he also has quite a few interceptions. Other than Jordy Nelson's great game, they haven't done anything, and Eddie Lacy has not been what he's supposed to be.
Yeah, Eddie Lacy is what is he there? Is he still running? He's rushed for a total of 113 rushing yards.
And Starks has rushed for a total of 75. So they have less than 200 rushing yards as a team this year. Not yesterday, not the day before, but this year.
And they play the Bears, so it's not getting easier on the defensive end.
Not with that Martellus Bennett hookup. I needed Martellus Bennett not to catch one of those 2 touchdowns, and I would have won every league. And he decided to catch both touchdowns. And Matt Forte decided to do nothing.
Or you could just be a menace like me and win every league. But that's about all we got.
My bad for being late today. Had some stuff to deal with and then completely forgot.
It's all good. I held it down for you.
Holding down the cup check.
Be back Thursday. I will. Tyler will be out of town.
I will be.
But
I know I'm always gone. This is pretty much just cup without the check.
So you're a check? Is that what we've determined?
Yeah, I've decided I'm not going to be something that goes on male genitals. You can be that.
I was thinking something you drink out of.
Oh, but then it wouldn't have anything to do with sports.
So, till next time, Cup Check. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
At cupcheck_radio.
And then friend us or like us, I guess, on Facebook. At
Cupcheck Radio.
There you go.
Sorry.
And be sure you follow our
YouTube thing, which is that's up to you. I don't even know it.
I believe it's just Cup Check Radio. It's Cup Check Radio.
And none of you guys are subscribed, so just stop listening right now. You obviously don't care about us.
Yeah. And even if we're on Ustream, we got 2 viewers. Go ahead and because we only have 1, so I know one of you guys missed it. So go ahead and check that out on YouTube. I don't think I had the music playing at the beginning. I apologize. I just didn't click the button. So
anyway, I'm Tyler.
I'm Alex.
And you're listening to the best sports show in the world.
Entire world.
On WODU, the best in college radio.
Because it has the best sports show in the world.
So we will see you guys. Well, he'll see you Thursday. I will see you next Tuesday, barring something else taking track of my mind. Y'all have a good day or night, y'all.
Y'all.
Y'all.